Hi there. I want to share some ideas with you about goal setting. Ideas that can help bring focus and commitment to what you're doing. Leadership teams' effectiveness can fail due to a number of reasons, but often lack of clarity and accountability are pretty high on that list. Team members can get caught up in a whirlwind of urgent daily stuff. You've each got your own departments to worry about, and it's easy to get distracted from the leadership team's most vital goals. I want to talk to you about how narrowing your focus is absolutely key to setting up a team for success. The ideas that I'm going to share with you are from the book The 4 Disciplines of Execution by Chris McChesney and Sean Covey. I'll include a link to a summary of the book at the end of the film. It probably feels a bit like you're caught up in an endless stream of urgent daily tasks and calls that sap your time and energy. For a leadership team to execute successfully, team members must concurrently address all of the whirlwind tasks that you need to do and the important but not urgent activities that will actually drive and affect future success. So focus is the first discipline that you need in order to start to make inroads to this kind of situation. Many leaders really struggle to narrow their focus because they've got so many competing priorities. So assuming that all of your tasks in the whirlwind need doing, well, the question should be, who should they actually be done by? You or maybe somebody else in your department. What do you need to do to free up time to focus on a more strategic agenda? What can you delegate and to whom? The opportunity here is to free up your own time to become a lot more strategic whilst allowing others to actually step up and take on more responsibility. Narrowing focus is not about reducing the complexity of your whirlwind. These plates need to be kept spinning. What it means is about not narrowing the number of goals that you attempt to accomplish beyond day-to-day demands. It's actually about focusing on the wildly important. Research shows that the less you focus, the more likely you are to succeed. Teams that focus on 2 or 3 goals tend to actually achieve those 2 or 3 goals with excellence. Whereas teams that focus on, say, between 1 and 10 goals tend only to achieve 1 or 2 anyway. And teams that are focused on between 11 and 20 goals, they often struggle to actually achieve anything. We're genetically hardwired to do only one thing well at a time. Forget multitasking, it's been debunked. If you want things to go really well, you try monotasking. Now, Apple's probably the greatest example of this in action. They could have chosen to focus on a huge range of products, but instead they pursued a very small range of wildly important products. Legendary focus and legendary results. Now, our brain is not designed to allow us to do more than one thing well at a time. We can't write a good email when we're on a Zoom call. Trust me, I've tried. It's why an air traffic controller gives her full and unadulterated concentration and attention only to the one plane that's landing at that point in time. This is why leaders and leadership teams that want to perform to the highest level should really narrow their focus to a very small number of wildly important goals. These should be the things that are at a level of importance that's over and above the day-to-day whirlwind. And it's true, this can seem counterintuitive in a world where the temptation is to take on ever more responsibility. But the route to excellence is actually about doing less, but doing that brilliantly. So how do you go about identifying your wildly important goal or goals? Well, a wildly important goal is that thing that stands to make all the difference. It should be your strategic tipping point. Now, sometimes the choice of this goal is obvious, but sometimes it isn't. You can well imagine a typical leadership team discussion where team members are arguing that the safety is the most important consideration. Somebody else on the team might be saying, yeah, actually, but it's actually production. Somebody else might be saying, yeah, for sure, but it's actually cost. Now, everybody's right, but I think we're asking the wrong question. Instead, ask, look, if every other area of our operation remains at its current performance level, what's the one area that we could focus on where change could have the biggest impact? Now, thankfully, there are 4 really simple rules around setting a wildly important goal. And these are really practical and helpful for a team to align and work together to really focus on what's right for them. So rule number 1, don't focus on more than 2 wildly important goals at a time. Rule number 1, don't focus on more than 2 wildly important goals at a time. There will always be a huge amount going on in the organization with lots of competing goals and distractions, but for a specific team at a specific time, If you want to be highly effective, you've got to narrow your focus. Rule 2, the battles that you choose must win the war. The battles that you choose must win the war. So first off, you need to understand what the overall goal is for the organization. What is the big strategy that the organization is focusing on? This is the war that you're all there to fight. The goal that you need to choose as a team is a battle, and that battle has to help win the war. Rule number 3, senior leaders can veto, but they can't dictate. So high performance is all about engagement and commitment, and senior leaders will determine wildly important goals for the organization, but they must allow leaders at every level to be able to choose their own wildly important goal. Sure, if the battle chosen doesn't help to win the war, then there's always the chances of a veto, but there's nothing more motivating than being able to set your own goals. Rule 4, all wildly important goals must have a finish line. You must have a finish line. So vague intent is the absolute enemy of high performance. If you really want to make the difference, and if a goal is wildly important, then people should be able to measure progress and understand when they've actually achieved it. So by using a simple kind of formula, like we want to go from X to Y by when, then you're going to know what the finish line is, where you aim to be and when, and you're going to be able to measure your success when you've achieved that. It's a bit like JFK back in the 60s when he shook NASA and the whole kind of American economy and industry to the core by announcing, land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth before the decade is out. That's a huge, wildly important goal that galvanized so much activity and development. So, wildly important goals, they're all about narrowing your focus to set yourself up for success. Sure, the whirlwind will continue, but you'll be able to concentrate a percentage of your time on those things that will actually deliver the greatest returns in the long term. And you know what? Your people who look to you for leadership will also be able to step up and take ownership of the more reactive tasks that maybe have been preventing you from embracing that more strategic level thinking. So this is all about doing less and doing it better. Please read the summary of the 4 Disciplines of Execution book. Focusing on the wildly important is the first discipline. The book then goes on to talk about acting on lead measures, keeping a good and compelling scorecard, and creating what they call a cadence of accountability in the team. I'll be really interested to hear what you think of it. Hopefully you'll find it thought-provoking and maybe even challenging. Thank you.